Every police car chasing down criminals on American highways today can trace its bloodline back to a stolen car used by two of the most famous outlaws in history. Bonnie and Clyde didn't just rob banks, they picked a car so good that police were forced to completely rethink what a patrol vehicle needed to be. What was that car, and how did it end up shaping nearly 100 years of law enforcement vehicles? Welcome to Modus. If you love the story behind the machines that shaped American history, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Let's go back before the 1930s for a second, because the story of the police car doesn't start with power or speed. The very first police vehicle in America wasn't even gas-powered. It was an electric wagon used by the Akron, Ohio Police Department back in 1899. And it topped out at a whopping 16 miles per hour. It had headlights, a bell, a stretcher, and even a small cage in the back for prisoners. For the next 2 decades, police departments across the country mostly used whatever vehicles they could get their hands on, with no real standard equipment or design. Now here's where things start to change fast. By the late 1920s, criminals were getting access to faster, more powerful cars than the police could keep up with. Prohibition had turned bootlegging into an organized, high-speed business, and bank robbers were becoming national headlines. This forced police departments to stop treating cars as just transportation and start treating them as tools built specifically for pursuit and apprehension. This brings us back to that Ford. In 1932, Ford released a car with something no other affordable vehicle had at the time: a flathead V8 engine. It gave regular civilians access to serious horsepower for the first time, and criminals noticed immediately. Bonnie and Clyde became so fond of the Ford V8 that Clyde Barrow reportedly even wrote a letter to Henry Ford himself, praising the car's speed and reliability during their crime spree. John Dillinger, another infamous criminal of the era, stole a Ford V8 police car during one of his escapes. So think about that for a second. Do you know what that means for police departments at the time? Their own patrol cars were being used against them because criminals had figured out how to get better performance out of the exact same vehicles police were driving. This forced law enforcement to fight fire with fire. Ford's flathead V8 became the go-to engine for police departments almost overnight. Not because departments loved Ford specifically, but because it was the most powerful, most available option that could actually keep pace with criminals in real pursuits. By the mid-1930s, Chevrolet, Ford, and Plymouth were the 3 major manufacturers competing for police department contracts, each one racing to offer more horsepower and better handling. The 1930s also brought something else that changed policing completely, and it wasn't about horsepower at all. It was communication. Before centralized radio systems, a police car was really just a faster set of legs for one officer. But once departments started installing one-way radios, a single patrol car could cover an area that used to require several officers working on foot. In 1933, a coordinated blockade system was set up across 41 counties in the Detroit area, allowing departments to communicate and box in suspects across jurisdictions. This was a massive shift, because for the first time, police cars weren't just fast, they were connected. Now let's talk paint, because you've probably wondered why police cars look the way they do. In the 1920s, before any standard existed, departments experimented with all kinds of paint schemes. The NYPD used green bodies with white roofs and black fenders. The California Highway Patrol, founded in 1929, went with white cars and black roofs. It wasn't until the 1930s that departments across the country slowly began adopting black cars with white doors and roofs, creating what we now call the classic black and white look. Red lights also started appearing around this time, mounted on fenders or grills, giving police cars a visual identity that civilians could recognize instantly, even from a distance. Fast forward to World War II and almost everything slows down. American auto manufacturing shifted almost entirely toward the war effort. So police departments had to make do with whatever vehicles they already had, often keeping cars in service far longer than usual. But once the war ended, everything changed again, and fast. After World War II, America saw a massive boom in both car ownership and highway construction. More cars on the road meant more speed, more accidents, and more need for capable police vehicles. In the 1950s, departments started buying large cars equipped with 4-barrel carburetors, 6- and 8-cylinder engines, heavy-duty brakes, and bigger tires, all built specifically to survive the demands of pursuit driving. This is also when the police package, as we know it today, really took shape. Ford introduced its first official police package in 1950. Chevrolet followed in 1955. Dodge joined in 1956. For the first time, manufacturers weren't just selling regular cars to police departments, they were building specific trims engineered for law enforcement use, with stronger suspensions, upgraded cooling systems, and higher output engines. This leads us into one of the most exciting eras in police car history, the muscle car years. Through the 1960s and into the early 1970s, horsepower wars between manufacturers spilled directly into police fleets. Departments wanted the fastest possible Interceptors, and companies like Dodge and Plymouth answered with genuinely powerful vehicles. The Dodge Monaco, especially versions equipped with big block engines like the 440 Magnum, became legendary among law enforcement for raw power and highway pursuit capability. This was a golden age where police cars weren't just functional, they were genuinely fast machines. But here's a question worth asking. What happens when the world changes and speed suddenly isn't the priority anymore? In 1973, the oil crisis hit America hard, and gas prices skyrocketed almost overnight. Big, thirsty V8 engines that police departments loved throughout the muscle car era suddenly became expensive to justify. This forced a nationwide shift towards smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles, even within law enforcement fleets. The era of massive engines and aggressive horsepower numbers slowly faded, replaced by a focus on efficiency and practicality. This shift set the stage for one of the most dominant eras in police car history, the Ford Crown Victoria years. Starting in the 1980s and stretching all the way to 2011, the Ford Crown Victoria Police Interceptor became the default choice for departments across the entire country. It was reliable, relatively affordable to maintain, and built on a simple rear-wheel drive platform that made it easy for mechanics everywhere to service. Chevrolet's Caprice, which had been a competitor throughout the 1990s, was discontinued in 1996, leaving Ford with almost no serious competition in the full-sized rear-wheel drive police market for over a decade. Think about that for a moment. For nearly 15 years, if you saw a police car on an American highway, there was an extremely high chance it was a Crown Victoria, simply because departments had no comparable alternative. Everything changed again in 2011, when Ford officially discontinued the Crown Victoria. This left a massive gap in the police vehicle market, and multiple manufacturers rushed to fill it. Dodge introduced the Charger Pursuit, giving police departments a sedan option with genuine performance credentials again. Chevrolet brought back the Caprice specifically as a police package vehicle. But the most significant shift wasn't about which sedan won. It was about body style entirely. Police departments across the country started moving away from traditional sedans altogether and shifting toward SUVs. Ford introduced the Police Interceptor utility based on the Explorer platform, giving officers more interior space, better visibility, and improved all-weather capability compared to a low-riding sedan. Chevrolet followed with a Tahoe built specifically to police specifications, offering V8 power in a full-sized SUV body that departments in rural areas especially preferred. Today, if you look at most modern police fleets, SUVs make up a significant portion of vehicles on patrol, a complete shift from the sedan dominated decades before it. So where does this leave us today? We're actually seeing history repeat itself in a strange way. Remember how the very first police vehicle in 1899 was electric? Departments across the country are now testing and adopting electric vehicles for patrol duty, over a century later. Some departments have added Tesla vehicles to their fleets for lower operating costs and instant torque. Ford has introduced police package versions of the Mustang Mach-E, and Chevrolet has built pursuit-rated versions of the Blazer EV specifically for law enforcement use. After 125 years of gasoline dominance, we've genuinely come full circle back to electric power, just with far more capability than that original 16-mile-per-hour wagon from Akron, Ohio. So think about everything we just covered. From an electric wagon in 1899 to Ford Flathead 5.8S outrunning Bonnie and Clyde to decades of Crown Victoria dominance, all the way to electric SUVs patrolling today. The police car has constantly evolved based on exactly one thing, whatever threat or challenge law enforcement was facing at that moment in history. Speed to catch criminals with faster engines, connection through radios to cover more ground, efficiency during fuel crises, and now sustainability through electric power. Here's a question for you before you go. Out of every era we covered today, which police car do you think represents the biggest turning point in this entire history? Was it the Flathead V8 that started the horsepower race? Or the shift to SUVs that changed everything about vehicle design? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what most of you think. If you enjoyed learning the real story behind these vehicles, make sure you're subscribed to Modus, because we break down the history behind the machines that shaped America every single week. See you in the next one.